It's understandable. There's a lot of life pressure, especially between your 20s and 30s. Up until your 20s, you're like figuring it out and you have more time on your side. But then when you hit 30, society puts this pressure on a woman to have everything together. I can relate to the pressure because if there was anybody in this world who was scared to turn 30, this girl right here. And I actually love being in my 30s now. It took a lot of work to get here. We're gonna get into 10 life lessons that are applicable to a woman who is entering her 30s or is already in her 30s. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. It is Krizia here, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to the family. I hope you'll subscribe. Don't mind that I'm holding the mic because I'm wearing a turtleneck and I can't really clip it onto my neck. So I know a couple of you have requested this video because I recently made a video on making the best of your 20s. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it for you so you can watch that later. Some of you did request that you wish you had that type of video for women in her 30s. And I was like, oh, perfect, because guess what? Guess who is now in her 30s? And my birthday's coming up. So during this time of the year, I always tend to reflect on my life a lot more than I usually do. I had this unrealistic expectation that I had to have my life figured out by now. And I am the one person who never felt like I had my life figured out. I still don't think I have it figured out. I have a better idea now and I feel more confident in who I am. Let's start off with the obvious, the perfect timeline myth. There's this myth and this pressure that women often feel as soon as they turn 30. What are the things we hear about? Your biological clock. You got to hurry up and have kids. You should be married by now. You should have a house. I've never made my whole life centered around that goal. And if that's for you, great. But it's not for everyone. Everyone has a unique journey. I remember in my 20s, I constantly felt this pressure that I needed to have my life fully together, become a millionaire, even in my 20s, I thought, but for sure, no later than being 30. I'm not a millionaire yet, but I'm well on my way now. And in fact, I actually didn't even make my first 6-figure salary until this year. Financial freedom, okay? And I am telling you this because let it be an example that everyone has different timelines. You know, sure, there are 16-year-olds running businesses and there are 50-year-olds who are just starting businesses. Either way, we all have our own unique path and we need to stop putting this unrealistic, and I don't even like to use that word often, but it is unrealistic to think that you can put a timeline and a deadline on your goals. So the worst thing you can do entering your 30s is to think, well, I already missed my window. I already missed my opportunity to start a business, to be happy, to get fit, whatever the goal is. That is a complete myth. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And I'm saying that with my chest because I believe it. I, for the longest time, held myself back because I thought if I didn't make it by 30, what's the point? Imagine if I would have really believed that, because I would have given up on so many amazing things that happened for me this year. After I turned 30, so many life-changing milestones happened for me in my career, personally. I want you to realize that life is so unique. It is far too unique to think your timeline needs to match somebody else, or the majority at that. Who cares? Let me put it this way. Even if, let's say you had the marriage and the house by the time you were 30, who's to say you're going to be happy for the rest of your life now, but you made it? Of course, life is going to be ever changing. There's no guarantee how you're going to feel about it tomorrow, next month, next year. Everything's always changing. I mean, there's so many divorces that happen because people rush into marriage. We're all going through something and we're all trying to figure it out. So even if it looks like other people have it all figured out by the time they were 30, you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes in their life or how they feel about their own life. And that doesn't matter at the end of the day because it's not your life. Forget putting deadlines on your life, your goals, your dreams. It's not real. So I think one of the most freeing things you can do for yourself if you're already at 30 or in your 30s and you feel like you are so behind is relieve yourself from the pressure. Your 30s are defined by you, nobody else. If you're happy with your life, that's all that matters. Too many times, especially nowadays with social media, everyone's talking about how to have a relationship or how to be in a relationship and how to be a high value woman and all these amazing things that sometimes you can learn from. But at the end of the day, it's your life. One more example that I wanted to give you, if you needed another reminder that timeline doesn't matter, hello, I got my YouTube channel monetized this year. When I had this channel since 2011. I don't even want to do the math of how many years that is, but I didn't give up, and I'm glad that I didn't. But imagine if I would have thrown out the idea out the window to say, "Oh, I can't do a YouTube channel anymore. I'm too old." Stop saying that. That was a lot. Let's move on to the next point. Another thing that is really important to do in your 30s is redefining what success means to you. We all probably started out with dreams as a kid, like I want to be, I don't know, whatever you want to be when you were a kid. A firefighter, why can't I think of careers? A makeup artist, whatever it is. Okay, so when we were kids, we had these dreams. Maybe some of us are doing those things now, maybe some of us are not. And that's okay because we evolve, we change, we grow. Redefine what success looks like to you now. Just because you maybe went to school and graduated with a certain degree and now have a career for like the last 5-10 years doesn't mean you have to stay there. Yes, change is scary and uncomfortable, and some of us probably have families and kids to take care of. It's your life. And if you truly feel like you are ready for a deep, meaningful change, do it. Start the process. You will feel so relieved when you just take one step at a time to move towards a different path, and you'll figure it out. Nothing is the end all be all. Like, it's not the end of the world. You will figure it out. Things happen unexpectedly all the time. If let's say you were dating a guy and he cheated on you, it sucks, but also he did you a favor because he's not the right person for you. And now you can actually move forward in a new direction and find the right person for you. And now you have better standards and ideas of what you're looking for. So remember that you don't have to wait for something to happen to you to change the direction of your path. If you feel a certain way about your life, you can do it. You can step towards a different path. You can change careers. I think a lot of times we forget we are the ones in control of our lives, and we get so comfortable in our routines, in our identity of who we've always known ourselves to be up until this point, that it is uncomfortable and it is scary to change that, but it's not impossible. In fact, I highly encourage it. I've reinvented my identity so many times already, and especially in the last 5 years, and it's been the best feeling ever. It has been uncomfortable in the time of doing it, but it always led to something greater, more meaningful, and ultimately made me happier. And redefining your success may mean asking yourself, what truly makes you happy? Like, maybe you did a certain career because you felt pressured by your parents, or maybe society made you believe you had to have this kind of career to be considered successful. But redefining what it actually looks like and means to you is so helpful, because then you'll have an idea of whether you're on an aligned path or not. Bring clarity if you feel confused. Point number 3, the next point, is embracing your true self. Oh my gosh, the 20s is crazy. Teens through 20s, I feel like you're constantly trying to figure out who you are, people pleasing because you're just trying to go with the flow, fit in, be liked. And we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be liked. I mean, probably still in our 30s, but hopefully not. Prioritizing being liked in general is something you do because you just don't know any better. But now that you're in your 30s, I hope that you have an idea of who you truly are, what crowds are for you, what crowds are not for you, what type of things you enjoy, the type of people you want to be around. This is the time to embrace who you actually are. And if not, start working on that now. What exactly you want your life to feel like, at least. Not necessarily look like from the outside perspective of oh, do I have my life together? But I hope you know what feels good to you at this point. And I encourage you to step into that power and start leaning in to who you really are. Voice your opinion, walk with this confidence. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room. In your core, knowing who you are, be proud of that. You've probably went through so much stuff in your earlier life or your 20s. And now you're at a point where you've learned a lot of lessons. And now you can feel more confident in who you are. Be unapologetic of who you are. And I don't mean unapologetic like rude and accept me for who I am or you can't have me at all type of mentality. It's more of a just like, this is who I am at the core. I'm open to growing and changing as a person, of course, but I am proud of who I am and who I'm becoming, forgiving past relationships that maybe did you wrong. We're past all that now. I think the biggest thing in our 30s is learning to let go of our old selves and make peace with who we are today. And I just want to remind you that being yourself unapologetically and authentically will not only inspire yourself, but it will inspire those around you to do the same. Okay, number 4 is a big one, prioritizing real, true connections. I think we can all agree that friendships in our 30s look so different than it did in our 20s. And if you haven't gotten to 30 yet, know that it will look different because in our 20s, I think we focus more on, again, being liked and being in large groups, having tons of acquaintances, having lots of people know who we are. In your 30s, you're going to realize that you want to be around fewer people, but you want to also be around connections that feel deeper and not so surface level, not so acquaintancy, if that's a word. Really prioritizing those two-sided friendships and relationships because when it's one-sided, it feels empty and it will drain you actually. So it will prevent you from evolving and growing as a person. A lot of times we get really comfortable with the relationships in our lives, like friendships and relationships in general. By the time we get to 30, you have this option to either keep those relationships and ask yourself, are they really filling up my cup? Do they meet my needs? Because now we're figuring out who we are at the core. We now have boundaries. And I'm not saying cut off every single person in your past, but like if you still have people around in your life who aren't necessarily filling your cup anymore, it's important to revisit that. And to that, I want to say, if you haven't found those deeper connections yet, don't worry. There's so much more time in life. But in order to do that, you do have to let go of who and what is no longer serving you and take it from someone who has learned the hard way. Having one authentic friend is so much more valuable than having 100 or 1,000 acquaintances. Okay, number 5 is having more self-compassion for yourself. We need to be nicer to ourselves, and that is the bottom line. We need to learn how to forgive ourselves for what we didn't know in the past. I would argue that not being able to forgive yourself or others in general is probably the number one thing that prevents you from further developing and growing. I've seen it in family. I've seen it in myself when I felt like I was stuck in resentment or not forgiving. It does feel like it delayed that journey of growth for me. And I just know that it's something that weighs heavily on our spirits that we need to release. Forgive yourself, be kind to yourself, and move forward. Let's stop living in the past. Having more self-compassion is also going to help you learn to not judge yourself and others so hard, which is going to be a huge, huge relief for you to finally take off and grow. Number 6. Okay, this one is really important because I think a lot of us forget. Keep building your skills and not just your status. I've almost become victim to this trap, but the lifestyle trap, being in your 30s, we feel this unspoken pressure to have the bigger house, have the bigger wedding ring, have the whatever, and it's that is a losing game, FYI. That is not a game. You want to try to keep up with the Joneses. I don't even know where that saying came from, keep up with the Joneses, but I digress. We don't want to play the game of keeping up with the lifestyle of those around us. I don't want the lifestyle of those around me. I'm focused on my journey, what makes me feel fulfilled, and my inner peace, okay? And my loved ones, of course. But moral of the story, don't fall into the status trap. Stop comparing yourself to other people. That is the number one thief of your happiness. The one thing that will serve your growth forever, not just in your 30s, but always, level up your skills. They will always serve a purpose for you in life. No matter what happens in life, you get laid off, a relationship is ended, you still have your skills, you have your experience, and that is so valuable. So always, always keep growing and keep learning. The day you stop learning is the day you stop growing. So number 7 is prioritize your health way beyond aesthetics. Especially in our 30s, I feel like we may or may not have lost touch with our health because we've been so busy with work, with our families, that we kind of stopped prioritizing ourselves, and that includes our habits in our health. So in your 30s more than ever, especially because as we get older, our bodies are getting older too, we need to prioritize true health, not just aesthetics. So instead of just focusing on trying to be thin or skinny, like those days are gone. Focus on helping our bodies function properly, healthy, strong. Keep ourselves happy too, because moving our bodies in a way that empowers us is so powerful, way beyond the way it looks and aesthetically. Of course, it is nice to look thin and in shape, but I would rather be healthy and strong before being aesthetically fit. So definitely prioritize your health. Make sure that you're getting enough rest. You're having enough balanced nutrition in your diets. Everyone's going to look different, of course, but make sure you're finding out what your body needs and revisiting your health. Do you need to start taking more supplements, or have you stopped entirely? Really start doing those check-ins with yourself and your body, because remember, if your body is not healthy, you can't do anything anyways. So it's so important to prioritize your health. And this is going to also help boost your confidence again. And I know for me, I found a new passion and love for my health and fitness after 32. Like, I started a new Pilates class, which honestly I started for the aesthetics. I'm not gonna lie, because I really did want to tone up my body, but then I fell in love with the journey of how it made me feel and how it made me show up for myself in other areas of my life. I felt stronger, I felt more confident, and I felt empowered. So having a newfound routine altogether is going to help empower you again if you feel like you lost sight of that, or just deepen your confidence if you've kind of had a routine already. Number 8 is choose joy over stress. Now that we're in our 30s, again, need to let go of the people-pleasing things. Does this activity, person, or goal serve the person I want to be? Does this bring me a sense of peace? We need to prioritize our peace. And I don't mean this in an unhealthy way, which is a whole nother topic in itself about, just not knowing how to properly place boundaries. So we end up like running away from everything and everyone. That is not healthy. But learning how to communicate our boundaries and just knowing what fills up your cup can almost guarantee that what you enjoyed in your 20s will start to change in your 30s. There are some things, of course, if they genuinely make you feel really happy with yourself, then by all means do it. But I think if you're on a journey of self-growth, personal growth, you do need to ask yourself if the things that you're doing is serving an old identity, or ask yourself if it's aligned with who you are now and where you want to go. The point I want to drive home is your happiness, your joy should be your compass to where you go next, because what makes you happy and what makes you feel really fulfilled is going to empower you to keep going and growing in your life. So follow where you naturally gravitate towards in terms of like what hobbies or what environment, what people, what type of things make you feel happy. And that's also learning how to say no to other things, because when you say no to things that don't serve you anymore, you're also saying yes to having more time to focus on other things that do feel fulfilling, which perfectly segues into the next point, which is learning how to say no without guilt. This is something that I'm actively working on at this very moment, but I have come such a far way already. There's nothing more powerful than learning how to say no without the guilt. No to this event, no to that meeting, no to the family drama. You have the power to opt out of the things that don't serve you by saying no without guilt. And I'm not just saying go around and be rude and saying no to everything and everyone. If something truly wholeheartedly isn't going to give you more energy, fulfill you in any way, learn how to say no without the guilt. If you've been invited to an event, in my 20s, old Krizia would always feel so bad thinking about other people first. That's the people-pleasing side of me that would think I can't let other people down, but then I would let myself down. And so that's the whole point. We're now in a point in our life where we need to prioritize ourselves and what makes us feel happy and empowered. And that means sometimes saying no first. The last point is it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And please remember that no matter what age you are, it is never too late to turn your life around. Even if you've been divorced, broken up in a relationship that you were in for so long, it is never too too late. Every day, you get to create a new chapter in your story. You deserve to live a life that fulfills you, that makes you feel happy, and life should be exciting at every stage. It's not going to be perfect, but learn to make peace with where you are. That is the biggest important thing. If you made it to the end of this video, comment below evolve so I know that you're on a journey of evolving, whether you're in your 30s or not. And I hope that this video was helpful in some way, shape, or form. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next video.